Tonight, a request from law enforcement. If an officer has their gun out while facing down suspects, ask them if they need help before you pull yours. One deputy in Pierce County says she's grateful for the backup she got recently, but it put her in a position of having to trust a total stranger during a dangerous traffic stop. The reason Pierce County Sheriff's Deputy and School Resource Officer Carly Capetto found herself in a guns-drawn shouting match with multiple suspects is because she's curious. She got curious about a stolen car. It was parked near where she was on duty. And to hear her tell it, the car and its occupants couldn't have been more suspicious.
This one was parked all kind of wonky. The windows were fogged up. Clearly there were a lot of occupants in it. I could see them moving around. I could see smoke coming out of the windows.
Capetto could have backed off, but kids walk here to and from school. Her kids.
So I quietly approached the vehicle and I could tell, they were talking and kind of doing some drugs inside the vehicle. So I knew that I had my probable cause.
Next, she had to figure out how to keep that car from driving off before backup arrived. She opted for a big stop stick and a belly crawl. So these are the ones that you used
that
day?
Yeah.
So you snuck up and then you push it across?
Yeah, so I crawled up on the driver's side and I just kind of dragged these like this. Okay. And then you just kind of shove them under. But I got both tires. No care for the world, no care for the public around them. Completely oblivious that I was even there.
Now, all she had to do was spring the trap. She used a jump scare to jumpstart a getaway panic.
They immediately startled and started moving around, and you could hear them screaming inside the car, "Take off, take off, take off."
The result?
Perfect stop stick. I think most of the tires were popped. And then they fled behind the Fred Meyers. And so I put it out on the air that they were fleeing.
They got as far as the nearby Kohl's parking lot.
They were just driving in circles. It was clear they didn't know where they were going or what they were doing.
Enter Capetto's mystery man.
And I could see this Good Samaritan. He was driving along and they nearly hit him, so he stops his car and gets out. He sees me attempt to do a traffic stop on them, and they backed up and rammed me.
We don't know what he was thinking, but his actions speak louder than words.
And so he immediately gets out of his car, draws his gun, and he's assisting in a felony traffic stop.
It's 2 against 4. With any number of possible weapons in the stolen vehicle.
There was a lot of movement going on. I can't take my eyes off of them, but now I've got this civilian who's attempting to help.
She had a split-second decision to make, one that could be her last. Shout, "Drop your weapon," or keep her back to him, trusting that he really was there to help.
We did have a crossfire, so I told him, I said, "Sir, watch our crossfire, move to my left side." And he's like, "Yes, ma'am." He holstered his gun, moved to my left side, drew his gun out again, and back to the felony traffic stop.
Was he an Army veteran, an off-duty security guard? Capetto can't say what he does for a living. All she knows is what he did that day.
He was fearless, and he told my partner afterwards that he saw that I was alone and he felt obligated to help. And I thought that was really cool because we don't see a lot of that.
But Pierce County Sheriff Sergeant Darren Moss strongly cautions against getting involved like that.
The first deputy might be okay and realize what you're doing, but then the next deputies come in and they're not 100% sure of what's going on.
Sergeant Moss says it's not safe.
When I watch from the other deputy's body camera footage, that civilian's gun is pointed in his direction. So if he's to shoot our deputies in the line of fire.
While rare, it's not the first time we've seen a citizen grabbing their gun to help officers. 2 years ago in Whatcom County, Cody Dieter was close behind 2 deputies who were shot.
That's when I step around the corner. I drop an entire magazine at this guy.
Then he and another deputy dragged the fallen officer to safety.
It was nerve-wracking. It was... my heart was definitely racing.
But Pierce County Sheriff Sergeant Darren Moss says in their incident, there was too much heart and not enough brain.
I cringe because I see a civilian who's untrained, we don't know their level of training, pointing a gun. I have to be concerned that, are they going to get shot? Are they going to shoot when they shouldn't have?
Sergeant Moss says they're always grateful for support from members in the community, but would prefer they do it as a good witness, not as a locked and loaded citizen in a dangerous felony traffic stop.
I'm glad everything worked out the way it is, but I don't want to see another person try to copy this.
Now, here's something Deputy Capetto does want to see. the armed stranger one more time.
We didn't get his name, and I wasn't able to identify him, and I wished I had been able to shake his hand and say thank you.
Using stop sticks to keep suspects from fleeing in stolen cars is one way law enforcement has evolved after the legislature put limits on pursuits. This year, a new pursuit bill in the Senate with tougher punishments for those who elude police has bipartisan support. I sat down with Steve Strand, the executive director of the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, to talk about Senate Bill 6200. They're calling it the Fleeing Vehicles Bill.
So this bill involves a lot of different elements, one of which is significantly greater penalties for eluding police. It has mandatory supervision and home monitoring bracelets for adults and juveniles if they choose to flee from the police. We're also looking for additional funding for regional crime labs for things like rapid DNA so that we can connect the dots on property crime offenders, retail theft, auto theft, and start to get those folks off the street.
He says one of their other priorities this session is to revisit the law passed in 2021 that prohibits police from questioning juveniles without an attorney present.
One of the unintended consequences is that sometimes witnesses, juvenile witnesses to crimes, can't talk because of the broad way that the bill was written. So in other words, they can't even talk about what they witnessed in terms of a crime.
Critics of that law say it takes away opportunities for teens to declare their innocence and to offer information about other suspects or evidence. Strand says so far the push to change it is not getting a lot of support.